Well, I thank you for the opportunity to come and share a lot of the work that I've been involved with for at least the last 8 years. And I'll make one correction. I appreciate the honor, but I do not hold the doctorate. I did graduate from Colorado State University. Go Rams. We have the largest sack in the pack. But it's a pleasure to be here. I was with my uncle when he won the Environmental Stewardship Award for Region 5 in 2009, 2010. And we were in Denver at the summer business meeting in NCBA, and the major discussion was beef's long shadow. That had just been published in England, and it was a hard hit on the industry. And it was designed to be a hit. It was a hit piece from the very beginning. And then we moved forward, and we moved back 10 years ago, and we're starting to see discussions again. The UN Climate Change and others are having these derogatory studies about beef's environmental footprint. And the Lancet report came out most recently, and that was a hit piece that involved vegetarians that had an ideology. And so they did a non-peer reviewed study that was accepted by the UN and others as fact. And they were wrong. So NCBA decided we're going to do something about it. So where did this issue of sustainability come from? Did it come from the consumers going to the retailer and telling the retailer, I really want my food choices to come from sustainably sourced, not really understanding what is meant by sustainability, but do we think the consumer was where it started at? Or was it corporate? And this is where I think that a lot of it got started, is because on the public side of these major corporations, shareholders are the ones that are saying, this is what I believe in. This is my ideology. I have the funds to invest in Walmart, McDonald's, and others, and I want certain issues that are around the environment and sustainability. And then the activist groups. And they are now sitting in those corporate rooms. They now have votes. They are making investment because of their large pool of money that they have. They're influencing what's happening in the corporate room. Now, that's not the retail side of the corporations. That's a different deal altogether. It's in that investment side. But we're not alone. We're still out there working on Kentucky 31 and novel, and we're working on genetics and things that are happening. We can't be the ones that are doing all the work. We can be a part of it, but we're blessed to have industry organizations that are working for us here in Kentucky and Texas A&M, Colorado Cattlemen. Those are the ones that we're supporting to help do that work for us so we can get the work done in country. And then National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And then the university. In the last 10 years, it's been amazing what's been taking place within universities, specifically taking the beef environmental footprint. And I mean the whole supply chain, from producers like all of us to the retail side. What is that true impact of beef in the environment? This is an example of the 142 members of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. We're 8 years old. And one of the things I want you to take away from this slide is, in this area here, this is the producer segment. Since its inception, the producer segment has remained between 50 and 60% of the membership. And we're happy to have everybody that wants to join in it. And even down, whoops, I'll back that up. Even down here, we decided when we stood the organization up that we were going to include some of those most not commonly in the same room with us, the Nature Conservancy, Environmental Defense Fund, World Wildlife Fund, and others. Because as we published work that we're doing, we'd rather have them in there in the discussion talking about their philosophies and what they would like to see in terms of a beef environmental position than writing and publishing against us after we had put things forth. And I will tell you that in that first year when we began to stand up the organization, when we decided what our work for, when we set our first 3 years of strategic planning, did I push something? Probably so. You don't put cowboys in charge of electronics, I'm telling you. We're better off with horses. But where I was at there is everybody checked it at the door. The retailers, the packer processors, the environmental groups, everybody checked it at the door, and we decided we're going to work for a common goal, and they did. And I'm proud to say that that work was all committed to advancing the beef industry. Yep. A lot of those corporates, Walmart, Cargill, JBS, they have self-funded a lot of the work that we've been doing and helping us. They have not only put the time and effort in, they have put the money into making sure that the beef industry goes forward. But and when we get this up, as I was saying, we've got others that are helping us. And with the roundtable, we worked with Baxter Communications. You see a lot of Baxter Communications with Cattlemen to Cattlemen. And they came and did some filming with us. Thank you. Did some filming with us. And so they have created some video and materials that we can use in promotion and education. Will it start automatically?
Responsibility. It's the everyday call to care for the land, for the animals, for the people, for the planet itself, as we work dawn to dusk and to dawn again. Because it's more than just a job. It's our first love. But Mother Nature deals a difficult hand. We'll outlast it. As consumer demands shift, we'll listen, we'll learn, we'll adapt, we'll become stronger. Because when it comes to our lives and our land, fences define borders, but innovation knows no bounds. We are never alone on this journey. We learn from each other, teach each other, and understand differences often just bring us closer. Because when we can connect one idea to another, we put our resources to better use. To ensure excess water finds its way to corn, alfalfa, and our very families. To ensure our beef makes it to the plate of every dinner table. We'll band with more partners, more like-minded people, willing to do the hard things, the right things, keeping their minds set on sustainability and their hearts set on this life. It's about believing in our product, our process, our care, our mindfulness, our lands, our people. For everything and everyone, it starts here. Began there. Continues here. And here. And here. And there. And it comes together here. Join us, the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef.
So in our sector, and I'm involved as one of the key leaders in the cow-calf sector in our goals work, so much of what we're responsible for in terms of environmental issues like land, water, greenhouse gases, it's tied to our management of that natural resource. On the live animal side and with us at the point of the spear, it's what's on the ground and what we're utilizing with these unique animals that convert human and edible forages into high quality beef. And what we feel like and what we found is the most important thing to try to tell out and measure what's happening is written grazing management plans. And so our goal is to establish a baseline of what's out there in terms of 700,000 producers. How much of that involves a written grazing management plan? And then our long-term target by 2050 is have 385 million acres under a written grazing management plan. And we just took the overall USDA estimate of grazable acres in the United States and said, let's shoot for 60% of that. Let's do better than 50, and let's shoot for 60% of those grazable acres under a written grazing management plan. So you've heard before that you cannot manage what you don't measure. And for us, we get about 11 inches of rainfall now in this current 30-year cycle that we're in. When I graduated from college in 1980, I'd say we were between 16 and 18. Biggest difference in that period in the last 30 years is we don't have winter anymore. We still have probably the same amount of monsoonal flow that comes late summer, but what we don't have is 3 foot of depth of soil moisture by April thaw. We just haven't had that. That means our growing season is compressed. We don't have that March, April green up. We have April, May if we're lucky. We've been dry at home since August. We got our first 5 inches of snow earlier this week. So it's repeating itself again. So what we do is in every pasture on our leased ranches or on our home ranch, we have a line transect set up in every pasture. Then late summer, to measure quantity of growth and condition of the pasture, we do an inventory. So at a base point right there, we'll take 4 pictures, north, south, east, and west. I'll take a picture inside that meter square, which gives us an idea what we can calculate what our tons per acre produced were. And in our country, if we have 1,000 to 1,500 pound dry matter basis forage, we've had an outstanding year. And then we'll go down the transect, and at every 2 feet, we use that rod, and whatever that rod touches, if it touches a plant, we say we touched a plant, it's gramagrass or sand drop seed. If we touch bare soil, if we touch a rock, whatever, we record that. And here, this year, we had been droughted out. We got our late season growth, and I'm with the Southeast Director for the Nature Conservancy in Colorado, and we're talking about the rate of recovery. And in that management, it's the rest period that's most important to us. And by giving our plants sometimes a full year rest before we come back in and graze them, we have an abundant root system that when it finally gets a drink of water, you get an explosive reaction to it. If you're grazing and completely defoliating and then not giving that plant time to not only grow root back, but grow leaf back, they fail to recover as quickly. This is an example of part of our written plan. This is a spreadsheet on Excel that I have. And the key point take away from this is the white areas. White areas are rest periods. And so we can design it. I can use it either as a calculation for AUM costs for a leased operation, or you can just plug it in like this we were in there for 4 weeks, so it has 4 X's in the month. Most of our rotations, short rotations would be 2 weeks. Sometimes in summer when we draw down completely, we might stay 45 days. But year over year, as we compare this and double check ourselves, we're looking at, we had heavy use in here. We don't want to be there next year. Maybe we go clear to dormant season grazing in a pasture that had heavy use area like that. Just as long as we don't do it 2 years in a row. We need that mosaic, that change. Maybe we turn the whole program around and we go backwards in another year. So for us, rotational grazing is how we get that adequate rest period in a low rainfall environment. But we see it in other areas where there's higher rates of growth. Go ahead and always pay attention to your rest period, not so much your defoliation at that moment, it's how much recovery time you give that plant post-defoliation. So where are we today within the U.S. Roundtable and our grazing management plans? We've partnered with Farm Journal and Trust in Beef within Farm Journal because they have an extensive network in the United States, from Maine to Arizona, from Washington to Florida. And again, I said the corporate stepped up and we were able to afford to ask them to do a survey for us. And what this survey is getting to that baseline level of 2023 of written grazing management plans, but we added more questions in there about performance and efficiency and financial, because those are the next steps that we're going to be working on, is efficiency and yield and a financial health index within the industry. Animal well-being is important, and 7 years ago, a firm called Wooten, who does consumer polling and marketing, presented to the roundtable. And at that time in their poll, they asked the consumer, what's the number one thing when you think about purchasing beef? What's the thing that concerns you the most? It was the environment. They had been told it's the environment. They believed it was the environment, that we needed to be more environmentally conscious. 2 years ago, they came back. We have them come every 5 years. That had switched. And the consumer said animal welfare. So it was environment 52%, animal welfare 48% 7 years ago. It switched to 52-48 the other way. They love our beef. They want it in the center of the plate. What they want to know is that just what we showed in the video. We care for the animals, we take care of the animals, their health is important to us. The processes that we go through, including the feedlot, including the harvest, all that has a component of animal welfare. So for us, within it, the measurement is beef quality insurance, and our goal within the organization is 10% growth in BQA certified operations year over year. The animal health and well-being, and this is an aspect that is essentially important to us in our operation. This is a first calf heifer. We need our first calf heifers to weigh about 1,000 to 1,100 pounds at calving. That calf he's probably about 5 minutes old. I was sitting there watching her calf, and he's already trying to get up. She got right up after she gave birth to him and started licking on him and nuzzling him, and he's getting up. And in our operation, live calves is more important than anything else. I mean, profitability is what drives us. We still kind of pay attention to weaning weights and things like that, but how do we get a profitable cow? And the number one thing is we want live calves. 100% of our cows are preg-checked pregnant in October. We expect 98% of those cows to bring a calf to branding in April or May. I'd say 100, but I know that God created a perfect animal, and there are instances where that perfect animal does not have a perfect conception and a perfect pregnancy, and we lose some to that factor. But to other factors such as dystocia, it's too simple of a job to get calves on the ground in vigor that in 30 minutes, that little guy was suckling way inside of 30 minutes. He had colostrum in his system before he was dry. And the problems associated with dystocia, you think your 100-pound calf is going to beat my 70-pound calf to the market. I'll get there. I may not be as heavy as your 100-pound calf, but I promise you I've got more profitability in that calf that was vigorous and stayed healthy, wasn't ever compromised at birth because he was in that birth canal and he was oxygen starved. And research shows that dystocia carries to the feedlot performance. And that will come back. The next time they're bidding on those calves, there's too many of those calves that are not performing equal to their contemporaries. So the other goals that we're going to be working on, like I said, we're well into our land goal. Efficiency is the term that we use for profitability. When we decided how we would use this terminology, it seems like whenever you're in the beef industry and you're talking outward and you use the word profit, it's like, well, no, you're supposed to be producing food for us, not profit for you. You produce us food. Give us this great meat, but don't be bringing that profit thing to us. It's funny how the corporations can talk about quarterly profits, but not food producers. And then we'll work on our water goals and the well-being goals. This is a couple of the young men that have grown up. One on the left is my grandson. The other one is a lifelong family friend. And I just like the fact I caught them talking like that, and they really have been ranching their entire life. Part of our goals in the roundtable, but it's also within NCBA, it's in our family, is succession. And while we would love to always see working ranches in working families, that's not always the case. And the model now is, how do we make that transition when you have a senior individual and there may be no family members coming back? How do we get other young people that can't get into the real estate side of it, that land prices have gotten so far out of control, a young couple can't buy in? How do we create the model using conservation easement, using unique financing methods to get young people that really want to be in the business but may not have that family connection. And so that's some of the work we're doing, not only in the roundtable, but with our Colorado Cattlemen's Ag Land Trust and financiers in Colorado to try to figure out new models to help people stay in business. We don't want to see that land converted to development. And in Colorado, that's the highest rate of conversion is development. This is an example of my daughter and my granddaughter. So looking to the future, what do we see coming? Technology. There is so much. This is such an exciting time to be in the business because there is so much stuff coming to us, and we've talked about it with novel fescues and learning more about what's limiting our cattle in feedlots because of congestive heart failure. And then there's the technology. And this is a group that I've been visiting with for probably 5 years, and I finally pulled the trigger this year, and we put in a virtual fence system on 25,000 acres. And these pastures are 5,000 acres to 7,000 acres. And in our country, 4-wire barbed wire fence with steel fence posts and steel corners is $10,000 on a straight level like you see there. That would be $10,000. You start running through our canyons, it jumps up to $20,000. And I finally said, we'll work on perimeter fence and be a good neighbor, but internal, we're going to use this. But what we can do, and this is an example of loading the collars, but you can tie every collar and its associated IP number to an ID on your cow. From your computer, you design whatever polygon you want your new fence to be. So in a 5,000 acre with 250 mama cows running in one herd, I can put them where I want them. And we have a lot of pastures where we've got this beautiful gravy grama grass over here, and we've got a different soil over here, and we've got lesser Guyetta type grasses that and they don't like that stuff. But I can put them in there, and they have to stay there, and they're finally going to eat some of that oatmeal before I give them steak. We're extending our use, and right now we haven't done it. But I think we're going to move that herd well up over 300 head of cows because we're using areas that in the last 10 years we haven't utilized well. We're going to get more even distribution throughout those areas. So general cattle are a major thing for us, but it's a major thing for the industry. We have too many problems associated with cattle. I cannot have grandchildren in wild cattle. We can move these cattle anywhere we want to move them. We're sorting calves out of cows here. It's all quiet. It's all done horseback. But those cattle, those steers that leave the ranch, I don't want those steers in a feedlot getting bruised, staying excited, getting dark cutters when they finally get to harvest. I don't want them getting bruised, getting up into the truck. We talk about the issue of heart. Try to move those cattle that are wild, that are already in that stage 3, maybe 4. And you add excitability and a temperament problem, you exponentiate your problem. So we work hard at it and realize the benefits of it. Along that same line is the genomics. And this one is one I'm really excited about. We are now in the process of, as every heifer comes into the herd, every 100 heifers that come in each year, we go ahead and pull DNA on those heifers. And so we're about half of our cow herd is DNA. And with Brady and Aaron doing all the genetic selection and all the decision making in the cow herd, and Joy and I sitting back in a mentor type position, I really felt like by doing this, it's going to give them an additional tool in selection. What I would like to see is when we get this profile complete, are we really where we thought we were with weaning weight in our herd and yearling weight? But more than anything else, we're a maternal herd, so what's our maintenance of energy really look like in that cow herd? We know what it looks like phenotypically, but genetically. And then it becomes a marketing tool. We share that profile with the buyers of our steers and say, this is what the genetic profile says, this should be the performance on this set of steers in your feedlot. And I think it's a way that we can push that marketing and push more dollars to our cattle because we're giving them assurances. We're showing them that we're actually doing the work, but I hope it helps Brady and Aaron as they go through the process of selection. This is a tool that we should never give up. Heterosis is probably the simplest tool to add more efficiency and profitability into an operation. CattleFax has been providing us with quality information for 50 years. And this is their latest point to us. And what I think you see here prior to 2000 is this was strictly supply and demand changes in it. But since 2000, this was a drought period with massive liquidation in the industry. And then following that, we get this spike as we're having right now because we changed the supply and demand. Nature caused it. Same thing here was another drought period and then a spike. And then we know what's happened the last 3 years for the Midwest and the upper northern region. We're no longer just having cycles within our industry, it's weather-related cycles. And with that, we've got to figure out ways that we can eliminate these extremes in here. These are killer. And so we've got to figure out a cow system and a management system to where we can be more resilient to those fluctuations and survive in here, even if we're under a drought. This is overall the profitability in the industry, and I'm sure in each one of these phases, even though we've grown exponentially, I think every tractor, every pickup, every input cost, we were talking about it, about what it costs to put hay up, what it costs to buy hay, what it costs to feed. Everything has gone up to where we're really just using bigger numbers and still suffering the same margins. This is a slide, and I'm a big fan of Bert Teichert, and he and I talk a lot about low cost and high cost cow herds, and they call it high return and low return, but for us, we like that term cost. Is your operation high on costs? Or is it a low-cost operation where it's the minimal inputs into it to where you can extract profitability out of it? And that just shows how difficult it is when you've got high costs associated with that cow production. It's really hard to capitalize on that profitability. So in our area, we supplement. We do not feed hay. We've got a situation where our cows can live out. We feel like God made a perfect cow for us. We just got to keep us from screwing her up. Just let her do what she does best. And so they graze out. We don't calve cows. We only calve first calf heifers. But it's really critical with our all-natural and non-hormone program to make sure we're delivering quality product. And this is an example of one of them that we use that meets ours. And these are in tubs. We don't run a truck out every other day. We'll put these tubs out and they won't see us for 2 weeks. Because we expect them to go do what God made them to do. I'm not going to wait on them. I've got other things to do. I've got corrals. It seems like that's all I do my life since I started working for the family is fix the corrals that have fallen down in the last 20 years. Fix the fence that's fallen down. So I expect them to go do what they do, and I'll go do what I do, and we'll both be happy at the end of the day. Here's an example of what Brady and Aaron are working on from generally February to they start hitting the road in March and April. And this Becton catalog had 250 bulls. By the time they pull all the data out of it, make some phone calls to Cam or somebody up there, they're probably going to go and only look at 20 bulls. And I hope, like I said, that the genetic side of it even makes it more compact so they can hit the targets they want the cow herd at. This is the elephant in the room, of course. This is the one that we got accused of being the biggest polluter in the planet, it seems like. And sustainability in livestock is often reduced to social costs, but very seldom is the other side of the balance sheet given credit. Yeah, every one of us, whether on Kentucky 31 or Blue Grandma grass in southeast Colorado, our cows are producing methane. And when they urinate, they're putting nitrous oxide into the ground. So we do have pollution. But I think what's never given credit is the offsets, the quality of the range that we're taking care of, what we do in terms of returning back to the soil, the hoof impact, the defoliation, the growth in the plants, what happens in the soil beneath the ground microbiologically because of grazing and the fertilizer from the dung. We have a cycle that replicates itself and is in balance and not wrong with nature. But we don't get that credit. We don't get the credit for the quality protein that we produce against that methane that is belched out. They never want to talk about feeding areas and areas in the United States and other countries that are nutrition deserts. We're trying to help meet that. You've got to look at both sides of the balance sheet if you're going to measure the environmental impact of the beef cow. So food for thought. Beef community uses a technology that produces high quality protein from solar energy locked within human and edible plants. The technology produces a natural organic fertilizer. It's mobile without fossil fuels, and it self-replicates. That's us. That's us. We have an incredible story to tell. Where am I at? So I'll do a quick run through of our most recent strategic plan within the roundtable. We do one every 3 years. This is a quick timeline of our inception in 2015 to where we are in 2023 with another grazing management plan and goals module that are now active on our website. So if someone's interested in looking and seeing what type of grazing management plan would affect their region and the tools are there, there's a toolbox there to help with that. So we are going to measure and report progress towards high priority integrated goals and sector targets, drive adoption of sustainability practices, giving that information out, but taking it back from you guys. We need your participation in cattle fact surveys. We're also working with USDA on their surveys. They're allowing us to get some questions in their surveys that go out. So participating in that is sending data back to us and information back to us that we can put together and go to these issues and share the progress. We're active in identifying and facilitating sustainability research priorities. Roundtable sits on the advisory board of AgNext at Colorado State University and other places. But the other thing we're doing is we're out advocating. We were at COP28. We'll be at we were at the Sustainable Ag Summit. We'll be at the Ag Tech Summit in San Francisco in March. So we're there talking about the issue to those groups that it matters to. And of course, we always got to ensure organizational success. So we will measure and report progress towards goals and targets. And one of the terms that I use and I'm a big fan of is continuous improvement. Within our operation, we can always get better. That's our goal, is get better. We're not good enough yet. And as technology comes to us and information comes to us, we'll get better. I'm sitting there thinking about how can I find out what our hearts look like? And JBS has our steers this year, and I'm going to make that ask if we can get a chance to look at the hearts or get some data back on the hearts, because I don't know. We range from 5,600 to 4,400 foot in elevation. We've never seen brisket, but that doesn't mean we don't have some that are not exhibiting all that. And so this is something that we want to watch, because dead steers don't make happy buyers. And we want to grow the credibility of the U.S. Roundtable as a leader in science-based sustainable resources and research. And so we are in the process of publishing baselines. We'll collect data. And we decided that we did not want to go outside of the roundtable for data housing. That comes with some issues. It always comes with some issues within the producer sector of who has access to data that was generated on the farms and ranches. We felt the only way to provide that assurance is we will hold the data internally, and that way it doesn't accidentally slip out. So this is what we're striving for, and I think we all are, is young farmers and ranchers coming in and wanting to be a part of this wonderful industry. So thank you.
Anybody have a quick question for Steve before we get to the next part of the program? Got one right over here.
So Steve, you said you only calve out heifers?
The first calf heifers calve out at the house. The cow herd might be 10 miles away from us.
Okay, I thought you meant you didn't calve out any cows after they had their first calf.
No, we've got everything from a 2-year-old to a 10-year-old.
Okay.
We generally have a cow that we'll have a few 10s, 11s, but by that time in our short grass environment and our sandy soil, they generally wore their teeth off to where they leave our herd bred, but they don't have teeth. And so I had a young man from Iowa working for us in 90, And he could not believe that we were selling cows at 10 years old. And he said, man, in Iowa, we've got 20-year-old cows, still got more teeth than your 10-year-olds have.
Got another question right here.
I'm almost embarrassed to ask this question. Virtual fence, does it work? Can you give me an idea of what it costs and what company do I go looking for?
Right now, Vince is in the lead. I talked to Gallagher 5 years ago, and they thought they would have a prototype ready to go, and they still don't have something ready to go. And yes, it works.
What if you have different elevations? You gotta find a high spot to monitor it?
They don't even have to be in constant contact with the base. And so they'll sit down with you on your terrain, and they'll pick the spots that give you the most coverage. You can operate at 50% coverage as long as periodically that cow walks into that signal. It's a low range signal that's coming off the tower. If she gets an update to her collar, she'll automatically find herself when she gets in there. If they're not catching it quick enough, you may have to go put them in there, use your feed truck, pull them into the new polygon, and then it'll keep them in there.
What company did you?
Vince, V-E-N-C-E. You
Thank
asked
you.
about costs. $12,000 per tower. It took 2 towers to cover 25,000 acres with 75-foot elevation changes. And then $35 a year rent for the collars. And the reason they don't make you buy the collars is as technology improves, and we're going to have a new collar come out in 25, they'll send you that collar. They are working on critical elements like health, temperature, things like that. Right now, we can just track where they're going and when they quit moving, but they're working on adding that technology a lot like you see in those ear buttons for temperature, heat cycle, breeding cycle, things like that. So it's going to keep improving.